New Year's greetings. Welcome to 2019. This is Global Reports, the first edition of the new year. Here again from our Kaduna studios is Liberty Television. I am Arthur Brooks. Welcome to our viewers in Nigeria, across West Africa, and around the world on the YouTube and Facebook. As usual, we follow the trending and most popular news stories from around the world from the past week. Our guest this week includes the renowned scholar. In fact, our guest this week for the new year is the renowned scholar, Professor Khalifa Dikwa. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
The first item we're going to look at is a bit nearer home than the world. This is in fact Kano State, where there's been a very active rugby club by the name of Barewa Rugby, and a long and noble history in the game of rugby. It has been managed by a British man named Martin Crawford since 2004. And late last year, the Queen of England, that's Queen Elizabeth II, awarded him an OBE, which is an Order of the British Empire, for his services to the rugby playing community in Nigeria. The OBE in fact. Martin single-handedly supported and encouraged the sport across Nigeria, not only in Kano, and also spread the sport among the young boys and girls in the towns and villages around Nigeria. And he's a good friend of mine. So we'd like you to watch just a few shots of Martin there. No video report on this one. We also used to have a rugby club here in Nigeria till it was demolished. Item 2. Joseph Kabila is being succeeded in the DRC Congo elections. Let's watch this BBC news report.
Volume.
DRC Congo right now. As far as I understand, as we're going to press, there's still a number of regions which have not held election, including the area which is affected by Ebola disease, and one or two other places. Prof, what do you?
Yes, exactly. One region that is said to be affected by Ebola outbreak and so on. It is maybe one of the tactics in African democracy and so on. But by and large, Zaire or Congo Kinshasa that we used to know, it's an African, a very potentially rich country, pillaged and violated by right from colonial times of King Leopold of Belgium, where citizens were sent to look for some amount of precious resources that are now still abundant in trillions, tens of trillions underground and so on.
Yeah,
Where those who are not able to make it, then their hands were cut off and so on. So abundant resources, no peace. That is the typical example of what no peace, no unity and so on. And it is all over Africa where there are resources, and that includes Nigeria.
Including
exactly. So it is the want for resources above human lives and so on. That is exactly what the colonial powers do after independence behind the scene. So Africa is only meant to provide the raw materials, not to develop itself. And they always connive with the leadership. You have civilian dictators in power. They do whatever they like, provided they do the bidding of the colonial masters and powers and so on abroad. So it is unfortunate. When you took a look at regions like Zaire, you see the region like Kasavubu, Mbandaka, and so on. These are not even talked about. These are the regions that have resources. And then again, Rwanda too has a say because it is they have connection in terms of ethnic groups and so on, just like northeastern Nigeria and so on. So it is about resources, and unless Africa stands on its own and to say enough of this nonsense, it is not going to be possible.
Dividing and ruling, yes.
Right now, you look at the opposition. The Tshisekedi has not been able to come together with the other one in order to present just one as an opposition. So they split their votes now for the candidate of Kabila to make way. So it may be mad. If care is not taken, it may be mad by violence, because all along there have been clashes with the police and so on.
And also what usually happens in these scenarios is when somebody, the preferred candidate takes power, he will change his allegiance.
He will say exactly.
Then there'll be potential of more violence.
Exactly, more violence and so on. So, and unfortunately, Africa doesn't have a solid peacekeeping force to mobilize and ask the colonial, the French or so-called perhaps United Nations forces that sometimes play double, to move away so that they take over as Africans and so on.
United Forces, nations playing double.
Exactly, playing double game. And they what I call them devil advocates and so on. So we wish Congo the best, and we also wish the same for Nigeria. In less than 50 days.
Back here in Nigeria, we are still facing problems in the northeast.
Exactly.
And there was some reports that some 6 towns have been taken over by Boko Haram. There's been some denials by the military. Just watch this very short report from Channels TV.
Come on, give us volume. We can't hear.
It's not been switched over.
What happened to the volume?
Happened to reports. We hope very soon to go to the report. The third item.
How can they leave the studio like this?
Okay, let's talk. Eventually we'll get it back.
as we speak.
For the reports in the control room. Well, Prof, we're back in the northeast. What do we hear? What's the facts?
Well, the facts are that, in truth, it is a business. War is a business, an international one for that matter, and the conspiracy has been there in the cooler for long, waited for democracy and waited for the right president leadership to allow it to fester. So if you remember at that time, it was during former President Obasanjo, who retired many experts in terms of defense and so on without valid reason, and then he moved.
Okay, I think we have, let's just watch this short report.
As we speak, we have taken control of Baga. I was talking about the position as yesterday when we were dilly-dallying to be able to stabilize the place. So Baga is not in the hands of Boko Haram. I say again, Baga is not in the hands of Boko Haram. They contested it, but they've lost the contest. Exercise Egweke 3, however, is very significant because for the first time, the exercise will be conducted simultaneously across the whole country. It is also a reassurance of the resolve of the Nigerian Army and indeed the entire armed forces of Nigeria, as well as other security agencies, to ensure that law and order is maintained as we approach the forthcoming 2019 general elections. The Nigerian Army will continue to conduct internal security operations in combating criminality and other security challenges in the country, in line with its constitutional mandate of military aid to civil authority.
Okay, Prof, what
Yes,
would you like to say on this issue?
exactly. I said.
Have more towns been taken over by Boko Haram? Is this true?
No, it has. It has for long been under the influence because they don't stay in one place. They go and come back, and with their machines and so on, they have a lot of pressure on the people there on the citizen due to the fact that Nigeria Army and police are overstretched. They couldn't have their own personnel all over. So they have a lot of leverage over the citizens of the border region, I mean the Lake Chad region, from Baga, within Kuka, local government, the regions of Arege and so on. If you cross the lake, you have the Baga Sula area and so on, all around Lake Chad. So they do whatever they do, they levy the people, and then they go back to their shields and so on. That was how influenced it was. But the truth is that now the armed forces now have, by virtue of advice and so on, now evacuating the citizenry out of the theater of war, evacuating them up to Monguno and so on, remove them from the theater of war, leave the military and so on, so that at least if the weapons that are needed are there, Nigerian military will tell them, will show them, will teach them the lesson of their life, that it is the best military in sub-Saharan Africa. And therefore it is, all along it has been a politics of Tom and Jerry. Even politicians did not want this thing to end because it sort of became like a cash cow just to remain in power and then grabs resources coming and so on, conniving with the devil outside and so on. And now that by virtue of their own system, their own style in insurgency, be it in Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq and so on, when elections are close, they will now hit hard. They will hit hard. They may even attack cities within the country bomb here and there and so on in order to destruct.
Because there was even a report which the military denied the Baga had been retaken by the Boko Haram.
No, physically taking it, even if they take it, they always lose it within hours. It is not.
Then there was
it is not a permanent thing.
Multinational.
Unfortunately, multinational forces that used to have forces from all the Lake Chad Basin, particularly Niger, Chad, Cameroon, and so on. Chad withdrew, and most people are saying Chad withdrew by pressure of France or Israel, because Chad is the only country that knows guerrilla warfare seriously, the army, because they have been dealing with it right from the time of Ibrahim Abacha in the cave bordering Libya, Tibesti, Enedi, and so on, up to Biltin, all these in the caves and so on. They've been fighting, falling back to Ibrahim Abba, Gukini Wadai, Hussein Habre, and so on. So this asymmetric war and so on, the Chadian forces are the best at it. So they are asked now to move. And our own suggestion is that the training in the military should be continuous and so on, inviting experts from Chad, Afghanistan, and so on, in order to help update and so on. These things are not happening with the political cycle. Politicians are not cooperating with the leadership of this country. This is the unfortunate part of it. If indeed they were serious about security of this country, which is supposed to be a national issue, ideally they ought to have had their oversight. The National Assembly ought to have had the oversight to ensure that money budgeted for the armed forces and so on, in order to acquire the weapons and other things, were released. And all along, hardly had we had 40-50% of what was needed, and from the Ministry of Budget and Finance Ministry of Adeoshun and so on.
This was borne out by some of the soldiers on the ground complaining.
Exactly, and even the $1 billion that has not been shared among the military and security personnel. You can't play politics when the country is not well. And you cannot say, oh, it is the business of the Northeast, because a country is just like a body. When your finger is not well, the entire body is not well. So I dare say that the high time President Buhari ascertained that he is indeed a well-decorated general of the army, and that he is indeed the chief, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, to ensure that what the military needed were there. All their weapons, their devices, and so on, and their welfare. The military are happy and so on, doing what they do. Exactly, and then to take even surprise visit to the war front and so on. By the time this kind of thing and the civilians are out of it, they will give them the beating of their a better lesson, and with the agreement with the neighboring countries, even if it doesn't mean to stop at Baga alone, it means with the air power and the navy power, the ground troops should be able to walk up to Difa in Niger, and then exactly even Chad to pursue them, northern Cameroon, anywhere, to deal with them like rats. If we don't do this one like a full-blown war to move troops in thousands without mentioning their numbers, move the intelligence, forget about these international NGOs playing double and so on with what the AFP says and so on. These are things that are known. If you know them and you are not happy with it, it is not up to the military to talk about it. Pass it to the leadership of this country to do it diplomatically. Amnesty, international organizations like humanitarian and so on, Médecins Sans Frontières and so on, international organizations. You don't have to fight with them. Forget it. Push it to the leadership. Let them do it politically. Forget it. Forget about it. And that you should not expect only international organizations to play to the gallery of the country. They are neutral organizations. And I think this kind of lesson should be learned. Like humanitarian, all this medicine, Sans Frontières, Agence France Presse, which is sponsored by France. And you shouldn't expect magic. And France, when you talk France, in Africa is all over. And when you talk France, behind France, Israel is there, and so on. It is about business.
Your theories,
yes, it is business. War is business. War is, if a war is not created, weapons are not sold. So when weapons are not sold, economies of certain countries are not up to date.
All countries have got are guilty of.
And they are guilty of that.
Nobody's innocent.
The same thing. Look at Yemen. Yep. They created a war for Yemen. They created a war for all over. So it is up to the world now to think, to use the brain, not the guns. And with technology, I think it is possible to have a dialogue. People should be smart, intelligent, and so on to silence the weapons. But with guns and drugs, they are very difficult.
It's not easy, because not only you look at what's happening in war fronts, you got to look what's happening internationally on finances. The whole world is
real money, yes.
Yeah, guilty of.
They are guilty.
Banks.
The real people behind those things either send pandemics, diseases, or wars in order to make money. With the pharmaceutical companies and so on, they create a big brouhaha, then ask for, insist that you buy the drugs and so on from them. They make money, or they trigger a war, and then people fight, kill each other, and then even to filibuster the little infrastructure that you have been able to put in place. They will even find people to sabotage, to destroy what you have as infrastructure and so on. And then they will get the elite to buy them into the game, particularly when such countries will ask, the government will insist behind the scene that don't pay the workers very well because they will challenge you more. Then there will be a problem like a strike.
Take the United States.
You have the strike in the pay and so on.
The National Rifle Association.
Yes, Rifle Association, NRA. The Rifle Association.
It took a bunch of school kids.
Yes,
who had
to challenge them, to suffer
mass shooting,
to come out, one person killing 50.
Yeah, and to challenge the president, challenge senators.
Exactly, and NRA.
We know how much NRA
exactly Putin into the Congress. It is exact corruption, the bribe that they give to
this, in fact, is
in terms of lobby.
It's a small part of the wedge. It's a thin end of the wedge.
Exactly. The lobby groups that they go to the Congress and so on, and to remain there, and it is always within the GOP of the Republicans, who do not care.
Yeah,
they want everybody to have, there are more guns than human beings, and then they keep the guns at home, they get killed outside. And then the children will lay hands on the guns when they take drugs and so on, and they are frustrated, they don't get college education, they don't have work and so on. They go in spray and they kill. Eventually, the same thing is repeating. Luckily for Europe and Africa and so on, we don't allow people to acquire guns the way the U.S. Now the U.S., the country we call liberty, the world liberty of liberty and so on.
More people die of gunshots.
Exactly, liberty, freedom taken too far, open-ended freedom, and now they are suffering from guns every day. And then this thing is eventually creeping out there. It's creeping gradually without even mentioning them, with the proliferation of the arms, and then the drugs and so on, unemployment and so on.
Well, Prof,
all these kind of things.
We have to go. Our time is
are very
sadly
possible.
up again.
If we don't, if we don't come together, it is likely from Africa all over, they will just sit up and then filibuster the successes we had.
I think 2019 may be a key year.
A key year of real level.
Either we make some improvements, we make some progress, or we
not
further down the line of,
it must be done within a week or two to finish off. Otherwise, you don't think of a good election.
Thank you very much once again.
You're welcome.
New year. We hope you'll join us in other.
Thank you. Thank
other
you.
programs.
Thank you.
And as time
Happy
is now
New Year
against
again.
us, Happy New Year to you and
Thank you.
everybody. Time is against us. Thank you to my guest. Thank you to the cameraman and the crew in the control room and the Liberty Global Reports production team. And this is me, Arthur Brooks, signing out for another week. And we look forward to seeing you once more on Liberty Global Reports. Keep watching Global and keep watching Liberty Television.
It's not just about the individual news item, it's all about what's behind the news story. What went on before, now and after.
We report today not from Kaduna, Nigeria, but from Liverpool in the United Kingdom. Slavery Museum. That's right. In Liverpool. Dr. Benjamin.
No personal attack on candidates.
Okay, thank you very much. Ray TV Liverpool. I'm here with Chris Kerr, who is one of the team that runs this remarkable little station.
My background is that I'd spent quite a lot of time working for Bernardo Television as a reporter and producer, and I have lived in Liverpool for most of my life, and I've had a very strong interest in doing something in the way of more local television, more than the regional service which Bernardo and the BBC offer.
This is Arthur Brooks signing off from Liberty Global Reports, and have a very good week. Thank you, Saidu, for coming on the programme.
My pleasure.
And please check out our Facebook page.